Hey everybody, I'm going live today, and I want to talk about something that is not really talked about that much in the employment world, and that is what is going on with employment right now. It feels like that being a temp is the new norm. I have gone from temp agency to temp agency. I'm going to turn my camera a little bit because I'm getting a little light on my face. I've gone from temp agency to temp agency for the past few years. And I've put in, probably 100, maybe even more applications in the past 2 years to various jobs. And literally the only job that I got from an application I put in was a Walgreens job, which ended up being great for benefits, but not really good for pay. And I'm feeling that when you're applying for jobs directly, I end up getting offered a really low wage, wages that don't really meet my expectations of cost of living. I'm a 25-year-old woman. I can't survive off of $9 an hour. I can't even survive off of $13 an hour, paying all of my own bills, no roommates. 13 is really not enough at the end of the day to make ends meet, especially if you're a single mom too. And also, a lot of jobs aren't accommodating to single moms. A lot of the high-paying jobs, they want you there at the butt crack of dawn, and daycares just don't open till 6, And try getting a 3-year-old up at 6 a.m. in the morning. That's not easy. But so, again, I currently live in Oklahoma City, and it's like you see hiring signs everywhere, but most of them are not hiring directly. And here's a couple key things you need to think about before you decide to go for a temp agency. Now, I'm kind of boycotting temp agencies right now. I'm giving myself a good 3 weeks of unemployment before I get out there and have to go back to a temp agency. But I'm making every concerted effort to put in a ton of applications. Some things you need to think of. So you're going to a temp agency because you need work right now. Think of this situation as, and the only best scenario I could relate this to is that the temp agencies are the drug dealers and you're the addict, and you can't live without your drug. So you have to go to the drug dealer at the end of the day, or else whatever, they got the source and you need it right now. And they know that. So they're not only going to skim a lot of cream off the top of the initial pay, but you're also going to get offered benefits, but these benefits are going to suck. They're not going to be what's the point of making $13, even $15 an hour when you get offered benefits and they're taking almost all of that extra money you're making, and then essentially you're only making, $10 an hour. So you have to think about that. And so if you're on Medicaid, you're going to lose these benefits. Eventually Medicaid will catch up and they'll figure out you're working. They'll figure out you're over income, and you won't be able to get Medicaid anymore. And then you'll have to opt in to these ridiculous, large, huge costing, benefits that this temp agency is offering you. It's just not worth it. So you end up having to leave. If let's say Medicaid catches up with you, they find your unemployment. Sometimes you end up having to leave that job just so you can be unemployed for a couple months and then go find another temp job. And this is just like a vicious cycle. You know, I have kids. I have to have insurance for them. And 9 times out of 10, I'm not going to end up going to the doctor. It's my kids that are going to go into the doctor because I don't even have the time to go to the doctor because I'm working so much. Another thing you have to think about is why is this company hiring through a temp agency? Okay. Sure, it might be a little less expensive for them to hire a temp agency just because of benefits, but in all reality, not really. I mean, because sometimes they end up paying more than what you're making to the temp agency. So let's say I'm making 13, my temp agency might be getting 14 an hour. It just really depends. They could be getting 20% of what I make. They could be getting, you know, but there is a possibility that they could actually be getting 1 times to 2 times what I'm making. And that in itself is terrible because then you get offered, you know, you hear from other employees and you hear them say, oh, when you get hired on, you're making 15. But these guys have been paying $20-something an hour to this temp agency for X amount of months, and they're only going to offer you 15 for back-breaking hard labor. You know, this isn't really fair what's going on. And this is why I'm really urging people to explore every avenue before you try to go to a temp agency. Try walking into that HR of that building. Try going in there. Try calling that company and say, hey, I'm trying to get on with your company. You know, I really would love for you to look at my resume and here's my name, here's my number, and tell them I would love to not go through a temp agency to get this job. If you're aware that, you know, maybe that company is hiring through a temp agency, check that out. So the third thing I really want you guys to think about before you go to a temp agency, and I have every employer that I've gotten through a temp agency, except for the jobs that I had in Oregon. I had a lot of great jobs in Oregon that like really they just couldn't find enough people to work those jobs, or that nobody knew about those companies or those jobs and nobody bothered to apply. Or just nobody could pass a drug test because Oregon is known for their weed smokers. So here's one thing I want you to think about. Why is this company hiring through a temp agency? And it seems like the common theme here in the Midwest, not on the West Coast, but here in the Midwest, is that the companies that are hiring through a temp agencies are the companies from hell. Point blank, period. God really put it on my heart to make this video today, and I'm just being straight up. I'm currently unemployed right now. I just gone through another company through a temp agency. They were requiring me to make the daily quota for the entire plant. So we had 6 people they had their own daily quota. I'm not going to go into the what, who, the what, and the where, because, you know, I'll get sued for that. But so there were 6 employees, and they were in charge of doing the finished product. I was in charge for preparing the finished product, which I was preparing it for them to finish it. There was nobody in my department except for me. There was only me. So the daily quota was, you know, maybe 245 to 250 for the 6 men. I was the only female there. they were asking me to basically make their quota. And so I mean, it just blew my mind. It blew my mind what they were asking of me. And they were essentially setting me up for failure. You know, I knew something was wrong. Like the day that I walked in there, that I was the only female. And I really tried my best to like, match up to the guys. You can't let them push you over. You can't really be feminine. You can't really show weakness. And I tried my best, but what they were asking me was totally unrealistic. And it got to the point where it was a hostile work environment. You ever see those cooking shows where like the cooks are screaming at each other in the kitchen and everyone's screaming at each other? That's how it was there. And I mean, I warned my temp agency because I had been through this before, where I had been through hostile work environments, and then my name got burned and it made me look like a bad employee when there was really nothing wrong with me. It was really poor management, poor HR, just the bureaucratic structure of hell, nobody looking. I mean, no, everyone blaming the people at the bottom, but the people at the bottom aren't responsible for running this show. It's the people at the top that are responsible for running this show. And, that's what big companies really need to take a look at, is who is running the show. You got a bad plant manager, you're going to lose a lot of employees real fast, because there is a ton of other companies around the corner willing to hire. This is Oklahoma City. This is not a podunk nowhere town where there's not a lot of jobs where you can get away with doing that, And I just want to, reiterate, why is this company hiring a temp agency? Really think about that, because usually they have extremely strict attendance. Like, I mean, we have some companies out here that you're 1 minute late from clocking in to lunch. And like, there's one company, I've heard tons of stories about it. I won't even go there to apply, because there's actually 2 companies that run like this out here. You go to lunch and you're waiting in line to clock in, and the line's a mile long. By the time you get to the clock to clock into lunch, it's 12:02, it's 12:03, maybe even 12:05. That's a ding on your record. So essentially, you have to cut into your own lunch hour to clock in on time, because they don't have an appropriate system of clocking people in on time. These are things that are, high turnover. Let's think about this, people. What does high turnover do to a company? How much does it take to train an employee? It costs money. It costs time. It costs quota that you're missing, because you just could not tolerate 1 minute being late, or maybe somebody's kid getting sick. So you're going to wipe out somebody's whole training. You're going to wipe out everything you put into that person just because of a few incidents. That is not a healthy work environment. That is not a company that I personally want to be with. And this is what's driving people to do Lyft, to do Uber, to do Airbnb, to be YouTubers. This is what is driving us to be self-employed. And this is what is creating all these companies, because more and more people are realizing that the standards that these people are asking for, and even the pay that they're offering, is just not enough for what you have to put up with. My last employer, I told him, I was like, there's no way I can meet this quota. There's no way. I need more people. I'm drinking 3 to 4 energy drinks a day. It's hurting my heart. I'm breathing in chemicals all day, and it's making me ill. And he essentially let me go on the spot after I told him that. And I told him in a very respectful manner. But what I also told him was there are 3 to 4 people that are going to walk out of that shop within the next month because you refused to hire them on full time. They had surpassed their 90 days, and all they want is to be hired on full time. And he flat out looked at me and he says, "I don't care." I was floored. I could not believe the type of person that this man was. And what I see a lot in manufacturing companies, especially manufacturing companies that have had new ownership or just had a complete rehaul of whatever they're doing. So let's say they like replace a plant manager and they put some new guy in. I've seen a lot of new revamped manufacturing companies have plant managers that know nothing about manufacturing. In fact, the two that I have personal experiences with, they came directly from supply chains. So like companies that just provide products, they pick the products off the warehouse floor and they box them up and they send them out. That is so different, 100 times different than manufacturing. Manufacturing is a whole different animal. 9 times out of 10, there's a safety violation going on in your factory, okay? There's always safety violations going on, let's be real. But both of these companies treated people really bad. And people don't take it. They find out. There's the internet, and they will report these companies. And so these supply chain management people that I'm talking about, they knew nothing about how much risk their employees take on a daily basis just to work there. And that by not accommodating them and by not hiring them on or just giving them simple things that they want, like being hired on full time instead of keeping them on a temp agency, they ran the risk of pretty much getting reported. But these management, they would just treat people really bad. And that's really reflective of probably how they managed their last work environment. And I just want to put it out there, guys, before you decide to go to a temp agency, really put in an application for other places because you have a little bit more safeguard of being hired on as a full-time employee. You have a little bit more advantage. And these companies also, they think that you don't have rights. They think that you don't have the ability to speak out against them. That's not true. Although it is a right-to-work state, there are 4 different agencies you can report them to. OSHA, Department of Labor Relations, Equal Opportunity Employer. They're a little bit harder to get an interview with. There's another one. I just can't remember. Oh, the Department of Environmental Quality, Department of Transportation. I mean, you need to really, if you're getting, if you're having safety violations, stuff like that happen to you, just because you're a temp, don't think that you don't have rights, because you have a lot of rights. So just think about that, guys. And if you could hit subscribe, man, that would be great. Because I need some subscribers so I can monetize this account. And I hope this really helped out. And this is Hope's advice from trial and error. I hope it works. Bye.